to meet you.
That's, well,
Yes, Steve.
we won't spend too much time talking about this. We're just like in the last 2 days since I took you.
Was it an accident or?
No, I'm still trying to figure out how this all came about,
Oh, dear.
so we'll see. I have an appointment tomorrow and hopefully, yeah. Be comfortable. Be comfortable.
So it's a time
Well,
I was
see
making.
what you mean.
Yeah, they get a little.
Listen to the Pope said.
I know, right? If you. Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2.
Yeah.
So friends, at this time we are going to begin the funeral services of Gina Freed. For those of you here, if you have a cell phone or pager, I would remind you to take a moment to make sure your phone is off or in the silent mode. And thank you to those of you joining us online via the live stream. Officiating today's services will be Rabbi Stephen Hart, the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Chai in Long Grove. And as we begin our service, the Rabbi will lead the family in the tradition of Kriya. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay, just for this moment? Okay, when I'm speaking later, I'll be speaking here. So first and foremost, my very, very personal condolences to each and every one of you. And I know that as Gina's passing and loss has left a very, very significant void in your lives and in your hearts. And certainly I hope and pray that the time we're together here and the words that are spoken will be a source of shalom, will be a source of peace and comfort and healing. In Jewish tradition, one of the most significant customs related to this particular time in our lives, a time of loss and of sacred memory, is turning to the black ribbons that you are wearing. And in just a moment, we're going to take this piece of fabric and we're going to make a tear. And we make this tear as not only an outward sign or a symbol of your mourning and of your loss, but also recognizing that it represents a tear in the fabric of life. The tear in the fabric of your hearts. And so it is our hope and our prayer that through deeds of goodness and compassion and loving kindness that will be done in Gina's memory, and from our conversation together, so fitting that we should be talking about acts of caring and of giving and of loving kindness. And so through those deeds that a full fabric of life will be rewoven for each and every. And so if you please repeat these words of blessing after me. Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, Haolam, Dayan, Ha'emet. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, the judge of truth. Amen. So this will just take a moment. There is a very, very long-standing Jewish custom and teaching that speaks of reciting 100 blessings each and every day. I'd like to ask for us to take just a brief moment to reflect on the deeper meaning of what it really means to recite 100 blessings each and every day. That we should continually, even amidst our loss and our sorrow and our mourning, we should continually be in a place of praise and acknowledgement of all of our daily blessings. Of those 100 blessings, the tradition goes on to say that the most important of all, a timeless blessing, is that of gratitude. So how appropriate it is that we should begin this service of personal and of sacred memory with a shared sense of profound gratitude for Gina's life and the meaning I know that she brought to each and every one of you. This is a moment in which we reflect upon her essence, her neshama, her soul and spirit, which is eternal and everlasting. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu, may the Holy One of Blessing, from whom all things come and to all things must return, on this day of mourning give us light and give us peace. And may all the words that we speak and all the memories that we share now bring us comfort and bring us strength. In Jewish tradition, such moments of loss and sorrow have always been acknowledged by sharing selections from the book of Psalms in the Bible. It is through these words that our ancestors found comfort and peace and healing. As is our custom and practice, we will now turn together to these same words with the hope and the prayer in each of our hearts that these sacred thoughts will now bring comfort to us as well. And so I'd like to ask that we turn to the booklets that you've received, and you find on the inside the very familiar words of Psalm 23. I'd like to ask that we join together in these words, Mizmor LeDavid. These words are a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I thought it very fitting and appropriate to continue the recitation of these Psalms by turning to Psalm 112, which I selected because of the words in the Spirit, which are so much a part of what I believe the psalmist is expressing to us, and also words that I believe speak to the spirit of Gina's life. Ashrei ha'adam, blessed is the one who reveres God, who greatly delights in God's commandments. Her descendants will be honored in the land, and the generation of the upright will be blessed. Her household prospers, and her righteousness endures forever. For the one who is gracious, compassionate, and just. For she is not afraid of evil tidings. Her mind is firm, trusting in God. Her heart is steady. She will not be afraid. She has distributed freely. She has given to the poor. Her righteousness endures forever, and her life is exalted in honor. With abundant honor, with abundant respect and love, we now pause to recall the life, the spirit, and the earthly journey of Gina Pearl Freed. My very dear friends, how very deeply touched and moved I was by our conversation together this past Thursday evening. As you shared with abundant love, not only your personal memories of moments shared with Gina, but the tremendous void that her passing leaves in each of your lives and in your hearts. And as I mentioned in our conversation, not only did I feel her presence and feel her spirit with us in each of the memories that you shared, but that her essence is present here with us now. We pause in this moment to acknowledge that which is eternal and everlasting, without end. How Gina will continue to be a part of each of your lives, uplifting you, inspiring you, teaching you, and yes, loving you. From the depth of our souls, we pause now to honor her, offering our profound gratitude for the many, many blessings that she bestowed upon each of you. It is appropriate that we should begin with a beautiful piece of poetry that, Michele, you asked me to share, which speaks to the depth of love that we acknowledge this afternoon. Are you there, Mama? All it takes is one picture, one memory, one song. Ever since you left us, everything seems wrong. The sadness can hit me and knock me on the floor. They say it gets easier, but it's hurting so much more. I can still hear your voice and I visualize your face, but all I want is to have you right back in your place. Oh, I hear you, Mama, in my dreams I call for you, and I try so hard to get to you, but I don't know what to do. Your family is hurting. It's so hard since you've been gone. I'm crying so much now, but I once was very strong. Losing you has changed me, made me someone new. I know you want me happy, so I'll try to be that for you. Can you hear me, Mama, calling out your name? I feel you all around me, but I'll never be the same. From very humble life beginnings in Brooklyn, New York, to an accomplished career in so many aspects of nursing, Gina's life journey, albeit cut too short, was overflowing with abundant blessings. Amidst the many life accomplishments that are so noted and with so much love in her obituary, I wish to pause this afternoon to reflect upon three elements of her essence, which I feel are exemplary in so many ways and speak to what is so desperately needed in our world today. Our world, many of our institutions, our society in general, is broken and is in need of healing. And I believe Gina was, at her core, at her essence, she was a healer. All of her work within the nursing world over the years spoke to her commitment to healing. As a visiting nurse, a nurse professor, and finally as a geriatric nurse practitioner at the Memory Center at the University of Chicago. And as noted in her obituary, she was a passionate advocate for friends and family, and a highly skilled diagnostician, oftentimes diagnosing family and friends' health problems before the doctors were able to do so. But her life was not merely committed to physical healing, but to healing of the soul, healing of the spirit. Her years of volunteer commitment at Ronald McDonald House exemplified the deep sense of caring she had for the mission of providing housing and support and community so families with sick children could stay together. Our world is in desperate need of more souls like Gina, committed to healing that which is broken in mind, body, or spirit, acknowledging the common humanity of their struggles. She was called, I believe, she was called to make a difference. And her 78 years of life was a fulfillment of that purpose, to be truly a lifelong super nurse and a healer. And Gina was also, as we know, she was at her essence a giver, not a taker. Her time, her efforts, her commitments, and yes, even to her financial decision-making, it was always about putting others in front of herself. And our world is also in desperate need of more givers and fewer takers. We need more Gina Freeds in our world. There are so many pieces of Gina's life that are worthy of note. Her love and passion for all things Chinese, her passion for the arts and for culture, from cooking to painting to all things arts and crafts, her inquisitive nature, her love of plants, and yes, of her 3 cats. But the third element of her essence, I believe, was to be found in the presence of each and every one of you. Each of you that is present here, her family. So I now wish to share these reflections and memories compiled by you, Karl, and in the spirit of love. And I know there are many, 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 many more details to be shared about the life journey that you shared with your beloved wife. So I'd like to just share these reflections. I first met Gina at a group dance at Columbia University when I was a student there, and Gina was studying nursing at Hunter College. I didn't expect much from the Columbia dances since many of the girls came there to find a husband and would refuse requests for dancing from anyone who wasn't a major in business or law or medicine. And of course, that excluded poor engineering students like myself. So Gina, on the other hand, had been at a dance, I think at City College, which was awfully boring. So she and her friends left and went instead to the dance at Columbia, and when I entered the dance, I tapped the back of the first woman I encountered and asked her to dance, sight unseen, or I should say front sight unseen. Gina accepted, and we proceeded to dance and talk and dance until it was time to leave, but I couldn't find my coat. And after much searching, I thought maybe someone might have taken it. I ultimately found it. Turns out it was underneath Gina's coat. And I believe that was a sign. We call that bachelor, by the way, which means that this was a moment, not coincidental, but meant to be. There were certainly a number of signs along the way, but after a number of dates that had Gina's parents quite concerned and quite worried, we were standing on the train platform talking about the plans. I was applying for graduate school at the time, and I had offers from so many remarkable places, from Yale and Harvard and Columbia and Caltech and Berkeley and Stanford. And I said to Gina, I hope you'll come along with me. She looked at me and a little sternly she said, I won't come with you unless I'm to be married and have a ring. And so we were engaged. Flash forward a bit to 1968. Gina didn't know how to cook. She could barely boil an egg. And under pressure from some of our social community with a number of great cooks, Gina signed up for some Chinese cooking lessons from a woman from Hong Kong. The first lesson was, if you don't have the right ingredients, don't ever substitute. Do not cook. Her recipes were excellent, and we had a wonderful time. She, of course, didn't follow the instructions and would always substitute if she had to, or substitute if she wanted to see how something else was. And she developed very good Chinese cooking skills. And flash forward once again to the 1980s in Chicago, where Gina joined the 5 Hospitals Homebound Elderly Program, where 5 good local hospitals got together to help out the homebound elderly who otherwise had to foot the bill for their own medical care that they didn't have ready access to. Instead, the program stepped in and funded their much-needed care. It really was a great program. And Gina loved the work and got to know some of the patients so well, was very close to them, and even brought Michele and me to meet her patients. Gina was also a hospice nurse at the time of the AIDS pandemic, when most people were afraid of going near anyone with AIDS. She was stuck once with a needle that went through her double gloves, but thankfully never got infected. She found it the most challenging work and truly loved the job, but could only take the stress and the middle of the night calls for so long. For later, Gina was offered the job of head nurse, meaning that she would be supervising all the CNAs, teaching them, developing courses for them. She came home always so very proud. And Michele and everybody congratulated her. But Michele said, you shouldn't do that job. You don't like all the bureaucracy and the paper shuffling. You like working with people. And it took a while before Gina accepted that Michele was right. She turned to her real love, and that was hands-on nursing and working with people. And that was to lead to several positions in the years to come, including a teaching job at Rush School of Nursing, half-time teaching at the master's level, and half-time working on a new program from the governor's office and a medical board around Alzheimer's. Rush was already very strong in that area, and they were asked to devise a program to unify various institutions within a 100-mile radius of Chicago and to staff an Alzheimer's center. Gina put together a lot of documents outlining what was necessary, what had to be done, and a lot of the things which are now, I'm sure, part of standard fare. She also later on was asked to write a book on home care by the AMA, the American Medical Association, which she wrote and was so very well received. And so, my dear friends, so was Gina's legacy, with numerous other accomplishments along the way until her formal retirement at the age of 70. The nursing profession was truly uplifted and truly blessed by her many, many contributions. And may she always be remembered for blessing. And so it is in that spirit, Julie, if you'd be kind enough to please come forward and to share your personal words.
This is for my sister, Gina. The passing away of anyone close to us always seems too soon. There really isn't a good time to lose a loved one, and the pain and grief we feel from the loss is something we have to try to come to terms with. But when someone is taken from us too soon, it can be nearly impossible to deal with the heartache we experience. We search out ways to cope and also to know that we aren't alone in what we're enduring. Allow me to plagiarize from an unknown author. Keep me alive in your beautiful hearts with unforgettable memories. Teach others what you've learned from me, and I will live in your hearts forever. What does that mean? That was a quote often used to pursue a beloved or to smooth things over after a quarrel has been resolved. However, again, I believe that quote can be applied to a larger group than just our significant others. I believe this quote can be applied to all of humanity if we are willing to try. Gina's and my mother, Henrietta Evelyn Goldstein, or Evie for short, had a love of poetry. From our mother's library, we had a common love for a poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Allow me to read you a shortened version, which is, I love you not only for what you are, but for what I am when I am with you. I love you not only for what you have made of yourself, but for what you are making of me. I love you for the part of me that you bring out. And with Miss Browning's quote in mind, this could equally be applied to a mentor, a teacher, or to one of our closest and dearest friends, namely Gina. Call it love, kindness, motivation, compassion, caring, concern, but it definitely can apply to Gina, who believed in you, who encouraged you when you may have had doubts about yourself or abilities. It is my belief that this quote can be all about Gina's best motivations and desires that she had for all of us. And why is motivation or encouragement important to us? We've all been down that road, that we've needed a little bit of confidence. What did those people who helped you, and more specifically Gina, mean to you? Is there a form of love for her in your heart? Excuse me. Think of all the times when you almost did not do something, but a word of encouragement from Gina, many times, helped you gain the strength to do it. She made you take that step. You did whatever it was that otherwise you would not. Think about that moment. Think about Gina. Was Gina there to guide you? Did Gina encourage you to make that step? I know she did, as she did for me a multitude of times over our 74 years together as sisters. Personally, I cannot count the innumerable times she encouraged me and gave me the strength to forge ahead, to go on what otherwise I knew I could not have. How many of you can also say the same? Gina was the word of encouragement in our lives. She gave you the fortitude that you may have needed to make that crucial decision, to make you make that move, to go ahead. And this, to sum it up, was my sister Gina. She was that kind, caring, and concerned friend to all who knew her. She was your truest friend, but she was also your mentor. She was your teacher. I'd like to share with you 2 games that we used to play as very poor, humble children who lived in a 2-bedroom home that we had to share a bedroom. The room was so small that all could fit was 2 twin beds in an L-shaped fashion. We had 2 games. We would play war with our legs. We'd both lay on our backs with her feet against my feet, and we'd fight with our legs. We'd push back against each other's legs until one of our legs set of our legs was perfectly straight. Of course, the one with the straight legs was the winner of war. Since she was older, taller, and had longer legs, I never won. She was always the winner. The only other game I remember was what we called dolls. Our parents were too poor to buy us any dolls, so we made up our own dolls with our fingers, with the thumb and middle finger touching on one hand, and the same on the other hand. We each had our own 2 dolls. And for hours on end, we'd play with our 4 dolls. We'd make up our own scenarios with our 4 dolls. They were male and or female. And this was unquestionably one of my fondest memories of playing dolls with my sister. Above all, Gina Freed was Karl's incredibly splendid and remarkable wife of 57 plus years. She was an exceptional, phenomenal, and resplendent mother to her daughters, Michele and Nicole. She was Cambria's exquisite and magnificent grandmother, a concerned, brilliant, and caring nurse. And she was my one and only sister. Gina was my sister, and I will forever be grateful to her for our lives together. And if I may make one more quote, this one by Mahatma Gandhi. There are no goodbyes for us. Wherever you are, you will always be in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much, Julie. And I know the challenges of just delivering these words that I know are spoken so deeply from your heart. Our thoughts and our many blessings are with you. We will now have the opportunity to hear from Gina's brother-in-law, Jack, and we'll do so remotely, so that we have the opportunity now to hear his words.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for introducing me. I'm sitting here with my wife, Renee. As you said, I'm Jack Freed, Gina's brother-in-law and Carl's brother, and I live in Ithaca, New York. Renee and my wife and I are very sorry that we cannot take part in person during this pandemic. When did we first meet Gina? Renee and I were already married. Before Gina and Carl got married, Carl brought Gina to our Riverside Drive apartment. I was then a graduate student and Carl an undergraduate, both at Columbia. So it was convenient time and place to meet her. We were very impressed then with Gina's concern for caring for others. This is our first meeting with her, leading her to a choice of a nursing profession. We were so pleased that Gina and Carl found each other and married shortly after. They encouraged each other's careers, and Gina made a loving home for them. She, as you've already heard, she loved food and became a great cook. We experienced many an extended meal at their house in Chicago in our visits there. Gina also loved the arts, and she and Carl could take advantage of the many cultural opportunities Chicago has to offer, and we could join them in our visits. We have also fond memories of meeting Carl and Gina halfway between Chicago and Ithaca in Stratford, Ontario, for terrific Shakespeare performances and to enjoy their excellent company at these performances. More recently, Gina and Renee could share their artistic creations together. We will certainly miss her.
We thank Jack very, very much for his personal reflections and thoughts and sense of history and shared history over the years. Now my pleasure to invite Ken, please, Gina's son-in-law.
Gina's passion in life was to help people in need. She cared so much for people, and as Rabbi Hart mentioned, she was a healer. And this gave her great joy and fulfillment throughout her life. It gave her a great sense of purpose. You know, in her long and illustrious career as a nurse, and her countless hours volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House, she helped so many people. She helped people that were ill, that were sick, that needed care. And she made a difference in so many people's lives. And on a personal note, I got to see this firsthand. About 6 years ago, my father was diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's dementia. And as you know, Gina spent a lot of time at the memory clinic at the University of Chicago. And her advice to me and her being a sounding board and just always being there for me was so helpful. And if anybody has dealt with a parent with dementia, it is such a difficult disease to deal with. And I just can't imagine what I would have done without Gina's advice, her support, always being there, always checking on how I was doing, how my dad was doing. You know, there's some people that are blessed with finding their calling early in life, and that's what Gina found. You know, she was able to be what gave her so much joy and fulfillment throughout her whole life. And she was a nurse through and through. And I appreciate what she did. We're all proud of her career and what she did to help so many people. And I'll always remember, though, the time that she helped me when I was struggling with my dad. I mean, the other great passion, as we mentioned, is the arts. You know, she loved the arts, and if anybody's been to Karl and Gina's house, I mean, it's pretty obvious that she likes artwork. I mean, she loved theater, she loved books, films, and some of my greatest memories of Gina is just the passion and enthusiasm she had when she talked about, you know, a movie that she saw, or you know, a play that she and Karl saw. And that enthusiasm was so infectious. And her love of art, I mean, the greatest gift that Michele and I received is the fact that she bestowed this love of art to our daughter, Cambria. And, you know, she spent countless hours teaching Cambria arts and crafts, doing projects. But she influenced her in a way that, you know, to this day, I think Cambria has that appreciation for not only art, but creating art and the joy of creating art. And I'd like to think that that this artistic spirit that Gina has lives on today in Cambria. So again, I thank Gina so much for that, and I will always remember that. And it's probably no accident that, you know, when I remember my first time meeting Gina about 30 years ago or so, it was in an art gallery, in fact, I think in San Francisco. And I remember nothing about the gallery. I don't remember what the artwork was about. What I remember was the conversation and my impression of Gina. I mean, the enthusiasm, the energy, the compassion in which she engaged. And you know, I'll just leave you with one last piece of her essence, which I think needs to be called out, which is her inquisitiveness. As our daughter mentioned just a couple days ago, you know, we'd go out for walks, and she'd always just, you know, randomly stop at a plant, a tree, a flower, and just ask questions like, "Oh, I wonder what this is," or "Is this or that?" You know, and she had this natural curiosity, and she was really good at figuring stuff out. And I think this curiosity and keen intellect really explains her ability to solve problems for people. And that's how she helped people. She helped them solve their problems. And as we said, you know, her diagnostic abilities are legendary. But it comes from this instinct to inquire, you know, and ask questions. And I'll always remember just our conversations, you know, when she was visiting, and I don't know, like maybe I had a midlife crisis or two, and she would always just ask the right questions and give me sage advice. I'll always remember that fondly. And she just had a way of connecting with people, which I really appreciate. So anyway, I will miss Gina. I'll always remember her for her love, her generous spirit of caring and giving, her artistic spirit. And I know we're all hurting, and we're trying to heal from this loss. But in doing so, I think we'll always cherish who she really was, and what a beautiful spirit she was. And she will always be remembered.
Thank you very, very much, Ken, and I know words that spoken from your heart, and in turn enter the hearts of all of us that are here. So to Gina's
dear husband, to you, Karl. For 57 years, you were blessed to share the journey of life with Gina. And true to your wedding vows, you stood by one another and supported one another through all of the many peaks and the valleys of married life. And you took a remarkable, remarkable journey. From your meeting at the dance in Columbia University and Hunter College to life in Chicago and the Hyde Park neighborhood. All of our thoughts and prayers are with you during this time of personal and sacred memory. And to you, Julie, to Gina's dear sister, you shared a very, very special relationship with your sister. Filled, yes, with moments of disputes and with quarrels, but ultimately a very deep love and a care for one another. You spoke regularly, and I know the loss of your sister leaves a huge void in your life. May each of the moments that you were blessed to share together be a source on this day of peace and comfort, and in Gina's spirit of healing as well. And to Michele and to your wonderful husband, Ken, I believe that you shared a very powerful soul connection. You had a soul connection with your mother. She inspired you, she uplifted you, and although you spoke of many of your mom's gifts, skipping a generation, in fact, she always had that very prominent place in your life and in your heart. And may God always watch over you, keep you, and grant you shalom, grant you peace. To Gina's very precious and adored granddaughter, to Cambria. And in so many ways, after listening to these remarkable stories, I found that your grandmother was a role model and she was a teacher. And from painting to crocheting to drawing to pottery, all things cooking, including her remarkable banana bread, your grandmother always exemplified her resourcefulness and practical ways to accomplish all that was needed. And may she always continue to watch over you and to guide you and to inspire you. And so we now turn, dear friends, to these closing reflections. And Michele, thank you so much for providing these remarkable pieces of poetry. And an excerpt from Madame Butterfly by Puccini. And also knowing that Gina was such a lover of opera. Oh, you have come down to me from high heaven. Look well, well on your mother's face, that you may keep a faint memory of it. Look well. Little love, farewell. Farewell, my little love. And this final reflection of child and mother. Oh, mother, my love, if you give me your hand and go where I ask you to wander, I will lead you away to a beautiful land, the dreamland that's awaiting out yonder. We'll walk in the sweet posy garden out there where moonlight and starlight are streaming, and the flowers and the birds are filling the air with the fragrance and the music of dreaming. There'll be no little girl to dress, no questions or cares to perplex you. There'll be no bruises or bumps to caress, nor patching or stockings to vex you. For I'll rock you away on a silver dew stream and sing you asleep when you're weary. And no one shall know of our beautiful dream, and you and your own little dearie. And when I'm tired, I'll nestle my head in the bosom that soothed me so often. And the wide-awake stars shall sing in my stead, a song which our dreaming shall soften. So, mother, my love, let me take your dear hand, and away through the starlight we'll wander, away through the mist to the beautiful land, the dreamland that's awaiting out yonder. Friends, we're now going to be turning to the concluding words of our service here. And first we will turn to the words of the Emelei Rachamim. God of mercy and God of compassion, I invite you to turn to the booklets you've received. And in her honor and in honor of these sacred words, would like to invite you please all to stand to rise. We say El Malei Rachamim Shochem Ba'Maromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim U'Tohorim K'Zo Harakia Masirim Et Nishmat Rachel Bat Yitzchak Shel Chalcha La'olama Ba'al HaRachamim Yisreha B'Seter Kenafav La'olamim B'Tzur Chayim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'Nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the soul and to the spirit of Gina Freed, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence. Let her soul be bound up in a bond of eternal and everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she now rest b'shalom in peace. And we say together, Amen.
Friends, this concludes the service and the streaming of the funeral service here. In just a few moments, the cemetery staff will take the casket and make its way back through the area here. I am going to ask for those of you in the front row if you can maybe make your way over this way so that the cemetery staff can